I post these videos not to gain subscribers and followers. I post them for those of us who are sick and tired of believing in things that insults our own intelligence. For those who wants to know the truth of our plight and condition. As the African proverb says, those of us who knows the truth must teach. Black people, it's time to end our indoctrinated ignorance. If we don't, we'll create another generation of black people who will remain mentally enslaved by the white society. A fact that has remained unchanged throughout history is that brutal oppressors never teach the truth to the group they brutally oppressed. They instead always indoctrinate lies into the minds of the oppressed, preventing resentment and animosity against the oppressors. This has remained a consistent fact throughout history, and it is still especially true regarding what the white society has done to black people. All that we've been taught by the white society are lies that keeps us thinking and behaving in ways that serves and protects the interests of the white society, essentially keeping us mentally enslaved. Case, point, and proof. This is why the white society miseducates black people to believe that our ancestors were ignorant and uncivilized, because it makes us believe that the invasion and enslavement of our ancestors ultimately benefited us. It's how they prevent us from demanding the reparations we're still owed. They also negatively distort how we perceive Africa, making millions of us feel indebted to the white society for brutally enslaving our ancestors. They've literally brainwashed millions of us to perceive it as having been a rescue mission that ultimately benefited us. They also miseducate us to believe the lie that most of our enslaved ancestors were sold off, thus shifting the blame of slavery away from themselves and placing it more onto ourselves. But critically think, given that Africans originally owned all of the gold, diamonds, oil, minerals, and natural resources, and most importantly, Western money had no value whatsoever in Africa, how then is it possible that most of the millions of enslaved Africans were fairly purchased? And given all that we now know about the white society, their proclivities, then the truth is that the greedy white invaders exploited their weaponry advantage of rifles, guns, and cannons to kidnap most of their enslaved Africans. We have been manipulated to believe lies that makes us think in ways that are against our own self-interest and instead in ways protecting and serving the white society. Thus, we are mentally enslaved. Those black people who don't critically think never notices their mental change. In regards to the N-word, we never made the N-word ours, and using it does not empower us. Those who write the people's narratives control their culture. Unfortunately, white oppressive forces write our narratives, and it was them who wrote the narrative that we reclaim the N-word and that using it empowers us. White propagandists wrote it and spread it into our communities. The truth is the opposite on both accounts. White oppressive forces manipulated us into using the N-word, and using it is actually an act of submission disguised as empowerment. Words, when repeated often enough, have power over our subconscious minds. Repeatedly calling ourselves by the N-word subconsciously conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false inherent subordinate identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social capital over our lives. And the reason why many black people are now self-loathing, perceives ourselves as being our own worst enemies, and reveres and defends our oppressors in spite of such a brutally horrific history of the contrary, has nothing to do with a silly slave syndrome myth. This mindset, these noted thoughts that exist among many black people were actually deliberately, subliminally embedded into our collective minds through unrelenting white media subliminal programming. Through media propaganda campaigns, the white society constantly inundates black people with fraudulent propaganda that keeps us believing the fraudulent worst about ourselves, especially believing that we're our worst enemies. It's how they keep us demoralized, divided, self-loathing, and it keeps our collective progressions shifted away from the white society and redirected towards ourselves. It also attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people. And as long as we're kept within this collective condition, we can then be ruled over forever. Many black people are insisting that the Bible provides the path to our liberation. The Bible will set us free. But a religious book that condones the evils of slavery, written by history's most ungodliest group, is totally disqualified from containing the true words of God. And a book brutally beaten into submission within the blood-soaked minds of our enslaved ancestors will never set us free. They've got our people so mentally enslaved that telling the truth and stating the facts literally offends millions of us. But the truth is that the early white Christians did not convert black people to save our souls so that we may join them in heaven. It had nothing to do with salvation, because they believed that we had no souls and they believed that heaven was for whites only. Their goals was actually to implant the myth of a white God into our subconscious minds, which makes us more compliant with their white dominance over our lives. And today they have us continually, they've never stopped. They continually have us drowning in disinformation. Is why many of us are thinking that we're the true Native Americans, that we're this, we're that. They have us divided, and we have no true leaders to gather the masses. Our leaders have been replaced with puppets. Brothers and sisters, it's time to wake up to our reality. The white society has weaponized its monopoly over information that we receive to keep us thinking in ways that keeps us disorganized, distracted, divided, and confused as a means of maintaining their dominance over us. And they keep us believing the fraudulent words about ourselves because a black population that is made self-loathing is much more easy to control. Brothers and sisters, those of us who are telling you the truth are trying to free you from a mental prison that you don't even know you're trapped within. One love and peace.